In this lesson, we add the sleeve placket and cuffs to the garment. We will cover the following: adding pleats to the sleeve, adding sleeve placket, stitching the cuff, and some advanced styling tools. Before we move on with the lesson, you can try adding the pleats to the sleeve patterns. Then watch the next part of the video to review your steps. On the existing markings, we add notches to snap the pleats to them. To add an internal point along the edge where an internal line ends, we click on the point on the internal line and select Add Point to Edge from the context view. Next, convert the internal points to notches. We repeat the same steps to add and adjust pleats on the sleeve. The pleat should be folded towards the back of the sleeve. Drag the end point of the pleat and position it to the markings on the sleeve patterns. We have yet to add the cuff and sleeve placket into the clusters. Before we do so, we freeze the existing simulation. To freeze a simulation, select the styling tool, then in the horizontal contextual menu, enable auto lock. This feature is helpful when we want to add a new pattern piece, such as a pocket, without affecting the existing pieces. Auto lock locks all existing pieces in the simulation and only allows simulation of the newly added garment. Now we add the placket patterns into the arm cluster and position it here. The cuff patterns go into the wrist cluster. In the 3D window, we see the cuff and the placket patterns are not in the correct position. In order to fix this, we multi-select the patterns, then in the context view, uncheck Use in 3D, then recheck it again. Unchecking Use in 3D disables the 3D mode for the pattern. As a result, anything sewn to it will drape as if the pattern does not exist. When you check Use in 3D, the pattern will reappear in the 3D window in Prepare mode. Note that this option is also available in the Styling tool. When we expand the Advanced section, the Use in 3D option is displayed. When we add new patterns in the 3D window with Auto Lock enabled, the patterns that are locked in place appear with white grid all over. Next, we want to stitch the patterns to the sleeve. We start with the placket patterns. We want to stitch the placket for this jacket to the bottom sleeve. We stitch it to this edge. After simulation, the top sleeve pattern overlaps the placket. We stitch the top of the placket to the internal line of the top sleeve. So we adjust the 3D layer to be lower than the sleeve. We reduce it to layer 1. Remember to change for both sides. The cuffs for this garment have a slight extension from the top sleeve pattern. This pattern is not positioned correctly. It should be flipped. We select the pattern and in the context view, select Flip X. The stitching from the cuff to the sleeve should start from this point. We will stitch this point to the section of the top sleeve, then to the bottom sleeve, and lastly to the sleeve placket. Notice that when we create a multi-stitch, the arrows should all face one direction. Before we dress the garment, we unlock the sleeve patterns to allow them to simulate with the cuff and placket patterns. To unlock the sleeve pattern, select the styling tool. The patterns are displayed in the advanced section. To unlock a pattern, click on the padlock icon. Alternatively, multi-select and uncheck the lock option at the bottom to unlock multiple patterns. Now click Dress. We need to add 2 buttons on the cuff patterns. Take some time and try to add the smart buttons on the cuff as specified on the specification sheet. We use the same smart button and assign the buttons to both cuff patterns. Now we simulate the garment. Lastly, we remove the iron property from the pleats on the sleeve. Save a manual snapshot. And the sleeves are complete. For more information, refer to the Browseware Help Center.